Hey, welcome. Dr. Pedram Shojai here with my good friend Mark Fox. I am very excited to share this information with you because a device that Mark has invented has been helping so many of our patients that I was like, man, let's get in the studio and let's talk about this. So welcome.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. By way of intro, you were an engineer at NASA. You were doing a bunch of projects. You're a rocket guy. And you had a pet get sick. And you ended up looking at some of this technology that was unbeknownst to you, even existent, and you suddenly, because you were from outside of this space, thought to yourself, well, hey, why don't I innovate? So it's one of my favorite types of stories because everyone in medicine is thunking in a certain corner and they don't even realize that you could do things differently. So I'd love to just get a quick intro to how you ended up here.
Yeah, so I worked on the space shuttle program, and my dog couldn't come up the stairs one day, right? And so we flipped a coin, me and my wife, who's not going to work today, right? So it was me. So I took her to the vet and did an x-ray, and she had a severe arthritis in her spine. And my vet's like, not a lot we can do, maybe Rimadyl, whatever. And actually here in Austin was another veterinarian that said, hey, I know of this magic machine. It has energy therapy frequencies, and it can reverse arthritis. And of course I'm going, that's BS. That can't really work, but it's my dog. So I'm like, I'm going to go look into it. So yeah, I looked into it and was like, well, it's kind of like last night we had an engineer that's like, this is all BS. It can't be real. So he went this morning, came back, went, I apologize. I spent last night looking at PubMed and NIH, and this stuff's been around for a while, and there's a lot of studies out there, and it's credible. I'm like, yeah, it is. And that's the same journey I learned like over 28 years is this is some real stuff. I'm still skeptical about it, but we're seeing too many results in too many different areas that's got to be real. So I was like, okay, well, why isn't this widely available to people, and especially PTSD? So I saw what it was doing for the miracle it was doing, but it was in expensive machines hidden in clinical environments and stuff. It's like, oh, somebody's got to be able to make something. Maybe it's me, an affordable device, which I thought would be easy, but it wasn't. But now we have it. So PTSD is where I started really after my dog, and then we've led on to a lot of other studies and stuff since then.
I hear this a lot in medicine. I'm sure you hear it a lot in your world, but the question, well, I'm an expert. Why have I not heard of this? This is my area. I would have heard of it, right? And so everyone just assumes they're going to know everything about any gadget that comes into their universe. It's not true.
It's not true. And in the medical world, they're not going to hear about it because their continuing education is the drug companies taking them to a resort, right, once a year, and they give them a pitch on the latest drugs. For the general population, you haven't heard of it because it costs a lot of money to make noise. And the people that own the noise, the bullhorn, is the drug companies, right? So on the 6 o'clock news, every single commercial, we see, which is the highest, most expensive ads, right? So every single ad you see is a drug commercial because the drug companies own it. So that's why most people haven't heard of it, is it costs money to make noise. Yeah. And you and I and others are trying to change that and make a difference, but we don't have the budget that Pfizer and Merck and those guys do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a sad state of affairs, but what we can do is let the results talk. One of the things that made me turn my head when I looked at this originally, because, look, I've been around this space for a long time, and people are like, oh, I have an energy machine. I'm like, get out of here, right? Like, there's so much woo. When people start talking to me about quantum, you better know some math if you're using that word, right? Like, quantum means something, right? And so I'm skeptical about all this stuff. And then I started seeing some results on a PTSD study that was like 98%. I'm like, come on, no one gets that. And so I started pulling on the threads of some of the science on this. It's like, holy crap, what is this? Why is it working so well? So that's where this originally turned my head, and well before you and I met. But again, the gadgets were 30, 40K. You got to put them in the clinic. PEMF is not new, but it hasn't been accessible. So maybe just real quick, before we talk about the results, what is PEMF for people who don't understand?
So PEMF, it's a fancy acronym, Pulse Electromagnetic Fields, right? It's the Earth's heartbeat. So it's not voodoo. You're surrounded in it. It's called the Schumann frequencies. You can pull out an app on your phone and look at them right now. So it's 7.83 hertz, 14.1, 20.3. So you're probably nothing would be living on the planet if that didn't exist. So it's been around since the beginning of time. It's not complete voodoo, and it's a pulse electromagnetic field. So The way I like to explain it, though, is to go a step higher for a minute and just say energy transfer. So nothing in the world happens without energy transfer. You don't eat food, you don't breathe oxygen, you don't drive your car, you don't fall down and hurt yourself. Everything's an energy transfer. So most people are familiar with a TENS unit. You're going to put a couple pads on you with electrical current. And by the way, this PEMF device is 1,000 times less than a TENS unit as far as energy, and you don't need the amount of energy a TENS unit has. But TENS units are going to be electrical, right? PEMF is a magnetic field. Light, vibration, or sound are all energy transfer mechanisms. Everyone's been sunburned, okay? That's a light energy transfer, right? People chanted since the beginning of time, right? That's sound. So music, right, is sound. It's an energy transfer. I just chose PEMF because it's the most convenient, because you can put it in your pocket. You forget it's even there. I do it all the time. I forgot I was running a protocol. I thought it was my cell phone when I go grab for it, and it's actually the Vibe, right? So it sounds fancy, but it's not. You're surrounded in it, and like I said, it's the best mode, I think, to make it efficient. So it's affordable, and it's energy therapy on the go, which is hard to do with a lot of other ones, right? If you're in a red light mat or something, you got to lay on the mat or be in the chamber, so those type of things.
We used to do vagus nerve stimulation. In our clinics, we see a lot of gut patients. So the vagus nerve goes from brain, innervates the gut. And so there's a whole body of work that shows that if you can regulate the vagus nerve, you can help with GI symptoms, you can help with sleep. There's a lot of things, right? But before this last round of gadgets came out, it would be in clinic. Now there's some things where you could, put it here. You have access to the vagus nerve, and you go down. But they're hard. The compliance is low. That's what originally made me look at PEMF, because it's easy and it's low energy. And so, like when you tell me about the Schumann resonance, it's almost like you place your body in an energetic cocoon. And within that cocoon, then the healing can happen. And so it almost sounded too good to be true. And then you start looking at the studies, you're like, well, it's working.
Yeah, vagus nerve, I'll be honest, 3 years ago, I never heard of it. Maybe 4 years ago, it's like, what is this thing? You start looking into it. And the original devices, right, were super invasive. You had to cut into your spine or the back of your neck or your head and put a machine in there, right? But it's on your brain, it comes down both sides of your neck. And the reason people concentrate on the neck a lot is it's closest to the skin there. And then it clusters around your heart, goes to all your organs. And it's the superhighway, actually, that the organs talk to the brain and vice versa. It's one of the things that goes back and forth. I was actually watching a YouTube video on this, trying to learn more about it. And the doctor was explaining how it clusters around the heart. I'm like, ooh, make a necklace out of it, right? So just put something so it's sitting over the heart. So that's an easy gateway into the vagus nerve. I have a veterinarian at Myrtle Beach. He has a dog rehab center. And for dogs, we have a harness, and it holds it over their heart. And he goes, Mark, I have every PEMF device there is. Yours is the best. Maybe technically it is, or maybe you're just smart enough to put it over the heart, right? Because all the other devices aren't convenient for a little vest like that. So, and the thing is, when some of the devices, right, you do it on your neck, you're hitting yourself with 15 volts of electricity. You don't need to do that. You see, a magnetic PEMF device is putting out an energy field. As long as it's close to the heart, you'll get full body coverage on it. So that's why we usually recommend wear it with a lanyard, or like our Vega Vibe is a little necklace. It looks like a pendant.
This is not new. There's a whole system of acupuncture that's auricular acupuncture. And if you look at how the vagus nerve runs, the 10th cranial nerve, it'll have a branch that goes to the ears. And then it'll branch down and it'll go down and do all the things that you just talked about.
Right.
And it's literally called the wanderer, right? It goes and it innervates everything all the way down in all the viscera. But the traditional systems of acupuncture are, say, like TCM is like, oh, you put a needle here, you put a needle there. The French were like, wow, the auricular system is so profound that their system is only doing needles in the ears. So it is a literal direct implementation of vagus nerve influence with that system. And so stuff's been around for a long time. People have been trying to manipulate the vagus nerve. This seems like a low lift, easy way of doing it. And the compliance is higher just because you're not electrocuting yourself, right, or poking yourself with needles. I can tell you what we hear, right? Because we use this for our gut health patient base. And so originally, they get the device and we're like, hey, listen, use it daily for vagus nerve stimulation. And then they start wandering as the vagus nerve does. And they're like, well, this got an allergy setting, it has a sleep setting. And 1 or 2 months go by and all of a sudden we're getting all these emails saying, man, I use this for X, Y, or Z. And now I use this all the time for this other like off label for us use. And they just start expanding into their use of it, and they love it. Like they end up saying, "Look, my wife stole mine. I need another one." And so it's obviously working because people don't do things that don't work.
Good point. Yeah, and a lot of people ask us too, is like with the different protocols, is what frequency does this run at? And a lot of these devices in this space have a simple sine wave doing a sweep of a certain frequency. This one's unique in that it's 2 frequencies at the same time. So it's a frequency pair that changes every 1 to 4 minutes. So the analogy, because it's very close, it's not even an analogy because it actually is a music player because all the protocols are MP3 files. But they're 2 frequencies together like a chord on a guitar. And the protocols are songs. And every song is different. And it comes from 8,000 practitioners over 35 years. I keep thinking of like a pickup band, right, in a garage. They're going to throw in a cowbell, more cowbell, right? Or take out part of the bass, change this riff on the drums, whatever, to make the song better. I was just presenting this last night, and the analogy I used was the Bee Gees. There's a clip that's out there. They make something like 150 songs before they had a hit. They're awful to watch this clip, and then suddenly they start making hits. They're finding the right combination of stuff. So that's kind of where they come from. They're songs, and they're not fixed in time, right? Good example, we got Lyme disease. I had a couple hundred people contact me. What do you have for Lyme? Nothing. And people are getting angry, right? So then I had a Facebook group with them, try to appease them. We don't have anything for that. So then I go find a doctor, says, hey, use 1 to 4 hertz. I did a study. It will kill the bacteria. But be careful. It's a mean little bastard, and it's going to release poison, and people are going to get sick. Okay, so we ran a study. It worked. From 100% of the people got sick, and they quit. So, okay, so regroup. What do we do with that? Turn the power level down to 3 or 4, kill it, then run the liver protocol to clean your toxins, then go back to the vagus nerve to reset your whole body, rinse and repeat, and then keep increasing the power level so you can stand 10 eventually. And that's working for a lot of people. So that's part of the trial and error that's always there and going to be there is find new stuff, and then people will contact me and go, hey, it's doing this for such and such. I'm like, I was just telling these guys on set here before we started, I had people contact me and go, hey, my AFib went from 97 to 2. What does that mean? 97 what? They go, well, 97% of the time my heart's in AFib, and now it's at 2. And I'm like, well, how are you even measuring that? Well, it's on my Apple Watch. And I'm like, okay, I don't have an Apple Watch. So now we're doing a study in New Zealand on AFib and running these protocols. So it's super fun. It's the funnest job I've ever had, Pedram, right? It's helping people and pets and dogs and animals. It's super cool. And the mysterious part of it, right, where some magic happens and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know how. And then you start to dive into it, and it's kind of just fun on the exploration of what this stuff can do.
Yeah, that's the part of it that I find the most compelling is it's kind of like jazz music, and it's open sourced in a lot of ways because 8,000 plus doctors have been working on this for a long time, and people are collaboratively sharing. So you're not saying like, well, this is my protocol. It's like, just run the thing. Let me know how it went. Right. And that to me is pure, and I hope it stays that way. Or, someone's going to come into the space and do the pull in the poker chips and say mine eventually. Right.
Yeah. Part of the what made me think of that is I won't mention her name because she doesn't want me to, but I got one doctor that calls me every week going, you need to be working on this part. It's that important. It's like, well, I got a whole list of those. And one of them is really cool. It's called Telepathy Tapes, and it's a podcast. And they're talking about how nonverbal autistic kids, when they're communicating, usually with their mother, nonverbally, they're running at 7.83 hertz in their brain, same as the Schumann earth frequency. So she's like, run a study where the mom wears the device at 7.83 hertz and see if she can hear the kid better. That'd be cool as hell to do. And it's like number 12 on my projects that Mark has to fund himself, right? Can I go do this or not? But we get calls like that all the time. You need to be concentrated on that. Literally driving over here, the Lyft driver was saying, have you seen this HBO series on Waylon Out Loud? I'm like, never heard of it. She goes, it's about people with Tourette's, and they found a device that will help, but it's in Europe and they can't use it in the US. You need to be calling those people. And this guy's yelling at me for an hour on this Lyft right over here. I'm like, as soon as I'm done with this interview, when I get back to my room, I will start to look into that. But yeah, I got to prioritize. Biggest, how many people can you help with the least amount of effort? Because I can only do so many things, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at Pareto's principle, and your 80-20 here is, look, it's great with anxiety, it's great with PTSD, it's great with sleep. I get great results with pain. Obviously, we're using it for gut, and that's got, it's kind of a multi-touch area, right. Neuropathy. Those are big, and just hanging out in one of those neighborhoods, you can be busy for a whole career. So you've got your hands full, my friend.
And all my marketing friends will focus, you idiot. Okay, pick one of these, and I did. I picked PTSD, and then the book I just wrote a couple months ago was about anxiety. Go Find Joy. So I am trying to concentrate on those, but when people that come find this technology, most of them, they're either long-term mentally hurting or physically, or usually both. And everyone's world revolves around your world, right? So the only thing important to them right now is, I got this, and I don't even know what that is. I got to go look it up. Or my daughter has cancer. So that's the only thing that's important in my life. So we get bombarded with so many customer service calls. I use a lot of ChatGPT. Where should I be? I'm taking all my CRM, putting it in there. What are all the most complaints that we're getting? Those type of things. Just a weird side bit with that is, because people long-term have never found a solution, now they have. A problem I never anticipated in this company is men latching on to my customer service women, right? They're like, the joke is, who's the boyfriend this week, right? Because they got somebody helping them, really helping them with a device, and they're being nice to them, right? So it's another challenge on my list. Not my strategic plan to figure out how to run away boyfriends at 64 years old, not having any kids.
Totally. Right? Yeah, but that is actually, these are shrapnel pieces coming off the medical system, because the medical system could give a damn and take the pill and go away. And there are millions of folks that are suffering, and they're just being told, well, we don't have a solution for you, or that's a side effect of your pill. And it's just that shit show doesn't work, right? And we know this.
It doesn't. Like, fibromyalgia is probably one of the higher success rates we have. And so many of those patients, not my patients, because I don't have any, right, is just like, my doctor says it's in my head. It's not real. Well, that can't be true when there's that many people complaining of the same stuff, right? So, yeah, they get super frustrated with that. And it's usually, the common theme is, if they have a drug that's helping them, it's masking some of it. The common theme is, I feel a little bit better, but the side effects are awful. And we all know what they are when you listen to any commercial, drug commercial. You forget 2/3 of the way through the commercial what the drug was for, right? Because
there's happy people
happy people and anal bleeding and eyes swelling and death and stroke, and you're like, what was this even for, right? So that's a huge attraction for this kind of technology, is there's not any side effects. The only side effect that we see is, it's making me feel tired. Our first response now is, how many protocols you run in a day? And the answer is 15 to 20. All right, well, your body needs time to take that energy and do something with it, so cut back, concentrate on one or two that you really want to try and tackle today.
And drink more water.
Right? And be honest with yourself about how much water you drink, right? Because especially elderly people, I don't know if they lie on purpose, but they're so dehydrated and they don't think they are. I had one guy, got in a fight with him. I go, why do you think you're hydrated? How much water are you drinking a day? He goes, well, I don't drink water. I go, so how are you hydrated? He goes, well, I had a protein drink last week. That was an actual response that somebody gave me. So, yes, drink more water. Drink more water and use electrolytes. So you could use, Liquid IV, I think, owns 80% of the market. We have our own. We came up with a PEMF booster. Magnesium is going to be the key element for this technology to work better at the cellular level. So yeah, be hydrated and use electrolytes if you can.
Yeah. And the part that is kind of the unspoken part in America is the polypharmacy. So the crossover is, behavior, but also if you're on one or two drugs, you gotta up your water intake.
Right.
Like that's how it works. Read the label, right? And most people don't. They're just dehydrated. And so nothing works. So you started with the original gadget, right, which looks like a Game Boy or like an iPod from the original ones, right? And then you have, since people have been asking for more, you came with the Vega Vibe, and then you came up with the Blue. So let's just parade the gadgets at the current iteration, right? I'm sure you'll have like 10 more because you get so many damn requests.
Right.
But what do you have now, and what are they all for?
So the Vibe, it's like the original iPod, right? So I designed it that way on purpose for familiarity, right? And to make it easy. And as I said, they're actually MP3 files. So I built them on a music synthesizer. I'm not a musician, but that's how they're built. So Vibe is still our main product. It has 60 protocols, and then 5 protocols can be used for 70 other things called expansion protocols. So there's 130 total. So it's the most versatile one. The Vega Vibe, because vagus nerve does so much magic, is a simple. This one's the Vibe's super simple. You just scroll to what you want, hit play, put it in your pocket, your bra, or wear it with a lanyard. The Vega Vibe only has an on button, so you can't make that one any simpler, right? It's not for sale yet, but running studies right now, is the Blue Vibe is both PEMF and light at 40 hertz. So it's going to go, you were talking earlier about meridians, it can go on the inside of your wrist here or the back of your neck with the little lanyard thing that you just throw on. It sits on the back of your neck, and it puts out light and PEMF. We're running clinical trials on this right now because the FDA will have SUVs show up my house without that data, and I'm not going to try and sell them until we can show it works. I'm super excited about this because we will know, what is today, January 21st, something like that? 22nd? Yeah, 22nd. We'll know in another 10 days. We've been doing a 6-week study. I don't want to jump the gun. Everyone call me with all kinds of like anecdotal data. This is unbelievable what it's doing for sleep and cognitive ability. But we'll do all the statistical analysis, and if that works, we'll start selling them. But one quick story, because last week I'm doing a study with a wellness center over near where I live as part of it, and we're also doing it online. But this Jamaican nurse, nicest lady in the world, never interrupted the conversation, comes in, I'm talking to a participant. She walks in front and goes, "Mark, this thing is my mother, okay? We didn't know she was depressed. She didn't know she was depressed. Now she realizes, and she was depressed, and now she's not. She has not called in her prescription to a pharmacy or ordered food from Publix in 10 years, and now she's using her phone, calling people. The conversation I had with her is freaking me out because is this really my mother? Because how well she's speaking. And I went over there yesterday. She had music on and she was dancing. She has not done that since I've been alive that I know of, right? So there's some anecdotal stuff like that. It's like, I can't wait to get the numbers to see if it's really working because that could be a huge game changer.
The Blue Vibe?
It's called the Blue Vibe. Yeah. And the 40 hertz, so you just go like, literally you go like that. It sits on the back of your neck, right? And you just wear it for an hour. That's with an hour a day. But it's putting out 40 hertz light, which the initial spark was from MIT 8 to 10 years ago. They were doing a study, had nothing to do with Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, any of that. And they noticed that it was reversing the plaque in the brain on the rats. And they literally, Pedram had a white rope light from Walmart. This is MIT, like not a lot of science into the light part of it. And it's like, okay, you're missing part of it because 40 hertz has been the magic frequency for long time in this space, but it's hard to tell an MIT guy a whole lot of stuff, right? But I was like trying to explain it to him. All right, you guys, right, you're on the right track. This is doing some amazing things. But of course, they'll take 20 years to ever get it to market because they're MIT, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so that's what we're concentrating on with that. It's very specific for moderate cognitive impairment is the thing I'm allowed to go say. And yeah, that's going to be super exciting. So and then we have a watch, that actually tries to show heart rate variability and sleep and blood sugar and HRV, those type of things to show besides objectively, right? Subjectively, you're trying to show it's objective, get some real data to go with it besides somebody just doing a survey. Because in the medical world, still in 2026, the gold standard for a survey is a 1 to 10 scale on the wall. What's your pain level? 9. What was it when you left? 3. Okay. Now I'm going to do all the statistical analysis on it. So we're trying to get more affordable biomarkers and those type of things to put more science behind it. And those things are changing fast. Things are affordable now that weren't 5-10 years ago.
We're doing multi-point microbiome analysis, blood work, stool analysis on all of our patients, and they're also using the gadget, but it's not isolated, so there's too many variables, and all our people are getting well. What did it, right? You need a very clear line of sight study, and this is where, like, I'm a skeptic. I've seen too much crap come and go,
Right.
And I'm sure you get your fair share of haters.
Yes.
Right? Because gadgets aren't supposed to just make things better. How do you deal? I mean, I know you. I've known you now for a while, and I know you to be a very scientific guy, but you're in this realm where it's like, holy crap, that thing's performing. How do you not look at that?
Yeah, and what made me think of that, the thought I had in my mind is, I wrote an article called Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, because the amount of Facebook haters I have is enormous, right? It's like, it can't work. And I'm like, okay, here's the top 100 scams of all time, okay? X-rays, antibiotics, DNA sequencing, CRISPR, right? I just go down this whole list. MRIs. MRI is, in Mark's opinion, is the most amazing invention humans have ever made. There's 5 levels of magic, but we use it 1 million times a year and nobody questions it. So PEMF's been around a long time. It's just not mainstream yet. It's getting more mainstream. But if you just stop and shut up for a minute and think, everything's magic until it isn't, right? Until it becomes mainstream. A cell phone on the Mayflower would have been, what the hell am I looking at, right? Nobody can explain how Starlink works, right? Elon's launch, right? Nobody knows how their cell phone works, most people, because it's super complex. So give it a chance, right? It's what I call, get rid of your boson. Boson's this, bozo and ozone combined. It's an invisible gas around you. It stops new ideas from getting in. So try to wipe away some of the boson and give it a chance. And the reason it does succeed is because I said, people, long-term physical, mental pain, nothing else works. Why the hell not try it? My doctor didn't recommend it. He doesn't know what it is. And which is an interesting angle, because especially with type 2 diabetes and insulin, this is very common. A patient will walk into the doctor's office and the doctor will go, wow, finally. Your A1C went from 8 to 5.4. Your blood sugar is good today. You finally started doing what I told you to do with diet and exercise. And they go, nah, didn't do any of that. I just started using this thing. And they go, what the hell is this? So then the doctors call me. What is this? You don't have the right to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then they end up becoming a wholesaler. Right?
You don't have the right to do this.
You don't have the right to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get that, or some tone like that. Who are you? You can't do this thing. And then that's how I get a lot of my wholesalers now, is doctors see the results, reverse, right? So patient coming in going, no, it's this thing. It's not what you told me to do.
There's the skeptical doctors, there's the open-minded doctors, and then there's the paid trolls. And I've been around for a long time. If I had a multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar industry that made money off of sickness, and all of a sudden you got things that are solving problems, I'd pay a guy in Bangladesh to bomb your page too, right? and so I've seen it all. I've been around the block, and it's not always pretty. The thing I love about this the most is that it provides hope. Because the system's like, sorry, man, don't got anything for you, or you have a diagnosis that means this. Now piss off. We've done everything we can, and so this opens this kind of multivariant world of energy and healing, and just magic is a weird word, right?
It is,
but magic is a word that gets ascribed to things we don't understand. So the teleporter is magic, but the tricorder was also magic. I don't know. My iPhone looks very much like a tricorder. So is the teleporter coming? Yes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It was Arthur Clarke, I think, said, any advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic or something along those lines. And it's true. It's just like, give it a chance. And yeah, it's like I said, most people will come to this because nothing else worked. Their doctor doesn't know about it, and they get angry, right? And obviously we have access, ChatGPT, the internet. You can go do your own research. I always made a joke like, I don't have any kids. I don't know what school looks like today for a teacher, but it can't be easy when every single kid has access to, nah, that's not true. That didn't happen in 1742, right? So everyone has access to that information today, which is good. So you can take control of your own health. And when you see a doctor, you are one of them. You don't do this, but the rest of the doctors, they're going to rifle people through in 7 minutes or 8 or whatever the standard is. They're not. I say this to whenever I get a new doctor, I go, you know what? No doctor has ever said to me ever, and probably never to anyone. First question is, what would you like to get out of this relationship? I've never had anyone ask me that. Okay, I want you to concentrate on this, help me with that, and quit picking on me about these two things, because I'm not going to.
Not changing that.
I'm not changing that, and you're wrong, and I have the data. I did that to my doctor who I walked in with a summary, said, I need you to read this because I did all the research. And she literally turned her eyes and went, I'm going to do what the American Medical Association says to do and nothing else.
Slave.
Yep, slave. And it's
Slave.
like, oh.
Yeah.
That frustration's everywhere.
This is where I'd like to leave this, is that there's a difference between belief and experience. And there's a lot of people out there that are guilty of what I would call infantile magical thinking, right?
It should be a 3-letter acronym.
It should be, right? Because that's what runs the world.
Right.
And then there's people that are like, man, I am desperate. Let me see that thing. And holy crap, that actually helped me. Let me try that again. Let me try that again. And so they don't believe in the gadget, right? They don't believe in something that is hopefully working. They've experienced it working. And then that becomes the basis. That's like the beachhead of an experience that then grows. And so what I love about this industry, if you will, and you're one of the guys that's really pushing it, is that the beachhead is there based on thousands and thousands of human testimonials saying, no, man, this helped me, right? And you got to look at this. And so people hearing people saying this helped me versus the AMA said I'm not allowed to talk about this is a very different associative way of doing things. And so I take my hat off to you for the way you're doing it. And look, you're just honestly, like, I hate to say it this way, but you're a guy stumbling forward trying to help people as fast as you can.
So we have 98% success rate with PTSD. On average, the protocols are about 90% success, but it's not going to work for everybody, right? I wish, and the lowest success rate we have is prostate, and it's about 65%. God, I wish it was 90, because you know how many phone calls I get from really angry 75-year-old guys because it didn't work? I'm sorry. We're trying to make that one better. I don't know why it didn't work for that 35%. So that is super frustrating from a personal point of view. I do take it personal. It's like, I got these guys and it didn't help them. I'll give you your money back, but that wasn't the point. The point was I wanted to try to help you.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's that whole, you already said it, 80-20 rule. How much time do I spend on new prostate protocols versus telepathy for autistic nonverbal kids? Right. Which ones do you go after? And it's like, you try and pick the ones you can. And again, I'm not funded. I started this with my wife's retirement plan, right? So we don't have investors and stuff. There's only so much I can do to get that data. And you're always going to get this placebo effect argument and fight, like, okay, yes, you can't argue there's some placebo effect. How much? I don't know. It's not 100%, but there's some factor, how much it is. But I always tell people, when we have somebody suffering from PTSD that is suicidal, and they send you an email and say, I had a gun in my mouth and I didn't pull the trigger, I started using this device. I actually don't care if that's 100% placebo, because the guy is still with us, right? Yep. So we get that a lot. It's like, why do you care and keep arguing about how much placebo there is or not? And this sounds weird coming from a scientist. When I get in arguments with doctors, mechanism of action, I need to know exactly I'm like, I don't actually care. I don't have time to. And then they all get mad at me because I'm like, you don't know how aspirin works. You have a theory, but you've never proven it. And then every time I say to a doctor, so do you know, you've heated a slice of pizza in a microwave oven, right? They go, yeah. Well, how does it work? And then they know it's a trick question from a rocket scientist, and they go, it does, like, the thing moves around and it does some energy stuff, and it somehow, it makes it warm. Okay. The theory is it's a rotational energy of a water molecule spinning on its own axis, and it heats up the pizza or the food. Nobody in the world has ever videotaped or taken a picture of a spinning water molecule. The technology doesn't exist.
But we think this is what's happening.
But we think this is what's happening, and so I don't have to prove that to heat my pizza. And And nine out of 10 doctors, Pedram, go, what's pizza got to do with this? I'm like, oh my God, you can't make the bridge
Yeah.
to what I just said.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's back to their locked in thinking, mechanism of action, has nothing to do with pizza.
And there's a whole can of worms around placebo. Like, what if being in the Schumann resonance actually capacitates placebo? And what if living in a place where you're pro-healing and optimistic and full of hope actually engenders more healing? And we're not even going to go down that path. But we don't know what we don't know. All I can tell you is I get dozens of people saying, hey, man, that thing really helped me. And so it's my job to share that with more people that can use help. So here's a squirrely part of the world that I have to deal with all the time, and I'm sure you face it all the time, is this: there's a big movement around trashing the pills. Now, as a physician, I always have to say, listen, you can't just jump off your pills. You got to talk with your primary and figure out what's going on. But oftentimes with the functional medicine that we do, oftentimes with like just healing the gut, we have to prepare the patient for the fact that their pills are now going to be too strong because their system is coming to balance, their inflammation is down, and now what their beta blocker, whatever they're taking, needs to be adjusted because the body is not in as much disarray. And so I have to always say this with a grain of salt, because then people are just like, hell yeah, trash the pills. And you're like, no, you didn't do any of the good stuff yet.
Right.
Right. And so if someone starts using your gadgets and they're starting to feel better, what would you say to this trash the pills ecology that's out there now, and how do you do it responsibly? And again, I'm not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that, right? But people are doing it. So now we have to be responsible for people going out there and doing it regardless of what we're allowed and not allowed to say.
Yeah, no, you can confirm this, right? But the average person in the U.S. is on 4 medications, which seems insane to me, right? And we tell everyone, right, do not get off your medications, even if it's helping you, blah, blah. And some of the feedback I've gotten, I'll talk about insulin specifically, because one of the first people said, hey, I was shooting 80 units of insulin a day. I'm down to 0. My blood sugar did this. And I'm like, no, you cannot do any of that. Doctor's got to approve it. And he goes, my doctor already did. My doctor says, as long as you're measuring it, you can cut back on the units that you're taking every day if your behavior or diet or whatever's changing on the fly and you're doing some of the things I said. And there's some of that with medication too. Cut the pill in half. The doctor's already told them that, right? You don't need 80 milligrams. Cut it back to 40 if you have some biomarker that you're measuring. And, insulin resistance protocol and diabetes and blood sugar is one of the obvious ones, because most doctors I have learned have told their patients that is you don't need to shoot that much if your body is giving you the feedback that you don't need it. So that's kind of the gateway into some of the easier ones to get off the drugs. But the good part is there is a community, right? Just give me the blue pill. They don't care. They don't want to. But more and more and more people figure out or learning, right? That's my body's my temple thing, and I'm putting drugs in there. And nobody has done any studies of what the combination of 4 drugs do to a person. We don't do studies with 2 of them at the same time, right? So when you get to 4 and 6 and 8, it becomes impossible to know. My mother's a good example. She was on like 14 medications at one time, cut them back to 2, and she was way healthier, right? So yeah, you got to be real careful with that, but be open with your doctor and say, I'm using this widget thingy, and here's what it's doing, and I think it's the only thing helping me because I didn't change anything else, or I did 2 or 3 other things. I can't prove that it helped. It's the only thing, but I know in general I've approved. It's kind of like this veterinarian who's using it every day at this rehab center. He's doing red light therapy and stuff too, and he's seeing massive improvement. He can't single out which one is the biggest bang for the buck. He thinks it's mine, but he can't prove that. But in his practice, he doesn't have time to. I'm having patient dogs come through, and they're going out better. So what I'm doing is my method and the right thing to go do.
Happy days.
Yeah, happy days.
One of the things that I deal with a lot with our patient population is sleep. And we did a meta-analysis of all of our gut. I mean, we see hundreds and hundreds of people with like bad gut pathology. Gut issues were not the number one complaint. Sleep was. And sleep is usually the first thing to go and the first thing to come back, or the last thing to come back, depending on where they're at. Sleep is a difficult, squirrely issue because there's multifactorial sleep. If your body doesn't feel safe, if your body isn't healing correctly, if your body's trying to detox at night, there's a lot of reasons people don't sleep. But once you start fixing sleep, everything gets better, right? And so the fast track to sleep is really like the golden elixir. If I would say, if I could get one person to do one thing, I'd be like sleep, because then you're healing.
So the whole visual analog scale, right? You're doing this 0 to 10 thing. That's the first thing everyone's going to do and compare that before or after. The next thing you're going to do that I tell everyone is sleep. It doesn't matter which protocol you're running. If you're getting more sleep, it means something's being helpful and it's in the restorative state, those type of things. Like the Carrio watch we have here it's the most accurate thing I have on our watch, and it's to the minute, and it shows the REM cycles, right? Roughly 2 minutes or something in the cycles. It shows when I get up to pee, and I can measure it once a night. So that's like one of the best markers is, what'd your sleep do over trend? Mm-hmm. Heart rate variability is going to be the next one, is if it's going, and it's counterintuitive. People that don't know that, you want your heart rate to go down, but your heart rate variability, you want to go up for health. And so you measure, I don't want to slam any other products out there. When they say they measure heart rate variability, they're not. They're averaging something for 3 to 4 hours while you're asleep. This one's measuring it every 15 minutes. So looking at heart rate variability over time, is that going up? It means it's probably working. Mm-hmm. The most scientific thing that I tell them to do, the best litmus test is, what do your friends and family say? It's true. It's huge. It's like, well, I'm not sure if it really did, whatever, but you know what? My wife wanted a divorce. She doesn't want one anymore. My kids want to hang out with me now. Steve invited us to the picnic, and he hasn't done, this is a true quote, Steve invited us to the picnic. He hasn't done that in 3 years. And I asked him why. He goes, because you're not being an asshole anymore. Right? So you get this huge feedback of the people around you, especially with Blue Vibe, is with the older people in the study we're doing right now, it's the son or the daughter, right, that's seeing the change, like I said, singing, right? Mm-hmm. And those type of things. So that's a super non-scientific litmus test, but it's accurate, is does everyone else see a difference in you? The other key thing, which is, especially with PTSD study, and this is any study, is like people forget how bad they felt 30 days ago. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I'm freaking out from a business point of view. It helped them, but they don't think it did. They're going to send it back, and they're going to be unhappy. So on a PTSD score, it's the Veterans Administration, PLC-5. The highest score you can get is 80, which means you're probably in a padded room, okay? Not good. But I have so many Zoom calls, recorded Zoom calls with customers, something like this. Yeah, I think it helped a little, but I'm not really sure. And I go, you self-reported a 72 30 days ago, and you just reported a 12 today. And they start crying, Pedram. They forgot how they felt until I put it in their face. And then I'll get in trouble for this, but this is my new theory. The only reason humans exist is that women have learned to forget how painful the first pregnancy was. Because if we had 2 people making 1 person and we never had a second one, we wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. There has to be something in evolution that forget how bad that pain is on your first pregnancy so you can have a second child. Mm-hmm. It has to be true. So there's that whole thing of, you can't measure it exactly because people kind of forget. And with PTSD, minimizing or forgetting some of the trauma is kind of the point, right? So again, it comes back to a litmus test of ask the people around you.
I want to double click on HRV for a second. I remember, so I'm doing a 150-person clinical trial for some consciousness work that we're doing with a group of folks. And one of the factors is HRV. And I was having lunch last year, I guess it was, with Jeff Bland, and discussing this. And I'm like, yeah, we're trying to push this through, but HRV, I had this neurologist poo-pooed HRV on me, and he just stopped and said, that guy needs to read a frickin' book. Look at what HRV has done. In 2025 alone, there's so many studies that have come out to say it's a direct correlate for chronic disease, for inflammation, all of these things. So heart rate variability is a thing. The science is in. And so if you go to your Main Street doc and they're poo-pooing HRV, it's because they're taking free golf trips, huffing the glyphosate thanks to the pharmacy companies, right? The pharmaceuticals. They are not up to date. The functional medicine gurus put the studies in front of me. We're like, don't let these idiots distract you from what's really happening. The science is in.
I had a doctor, I liked his quote. He told me, he goes, Mark, PEMF is not, it's not on trial anymore. If somebody says it is, they haven't done their homework. It's that easy. And I think I did mention, right, the guy last night, super skeptical guy. I never heard of this. Can't be real. And came this morning and said, I read a bunch of studies last night. There's a whole bunch of stuff on PubMed. Yeah, it's been around a long time. Tesla and those guys have been around for 100 plus years. We lost some of the technology, unfortunately, because of Rockefeller and Carnegie. We won't go down that path unless we need to, but he just discovered, hey, I got oil and I can make drugs out of oil, so therefore I'm going to control the medical space and make drugs, right? And so anything that was electrical stimulation or PEMF, you lost your license or you lost your funding. So the United States got way behind on it, unfortunately, but we're catching back up again. It's back to boson is keep an open mind, again, because it's everything behind you that you was magic completely before and impossible is not impossible anymore.
My hat's off to the guy from last night, by the way, because that's a true scientist. This doesn't fit my model, gruff. Okay, I'm going to go look at this. The new data suggests that my model was inaccurate. Now I have to adjust my model because proof is here, right? And so that's science. The rest of these guys aren't practicing science, right? And so that to me is, notable. You should thank that guy for doing what he's supposed to.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly. I'm such a fan of this thing that what I've done is I've created a free course for people who get it, that just get free access because I think it's so cool. We share all the favorite protocols that have worked for hundreds of my patients, plus some of the stuff that I personally use for consciousness expansion and relaxation. And so I'm going to give you the greatest hits. You can buy it from him. You buy it, just come back. We will give you access to it for free, just so you have kind of a starter pack of places to go beyond just the device and some of the anecdotal that's come from our community and our patient base, just to help you understand how to better use this. So I get a lot of questions from our patients, right? They're just like, we send them this thing and they're like, okay, well, it says this and I see some wiggly lines on an interface. How do I know it's working? And so I think that you did a brilliant thing in sending a test kit with it now, because people see that and viscerally they go, oh, okay, it's doing something. I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something. So if you could demo that, that would be amazing.
Yes, I mean, the device itself, you just turn it on. It's got 60 protocols on it. You just scroll through them alphabetically and you hit the one that you want, right? And then you hit play and you put it in your pocket, or you have a lanyard you can wear around your neck. Helps it sit by the heart, or a lot of women just stick it in their bra. I don't know what they do in the bathroom because we have so many of these getting dropped in the toilet. It's unbelievable. So the next version is going to have even more waterproofing on it. But so we have a little simple device, and there's an app you can get on your phone for free, Google's App Store, and you could put it. The coils are right here where the vents are, and you can actually see it on your phone. Or this is even easier, right? You just have a magnet and it shows that it's working. Initially, I designed this. My wife goes, that's the dumbest thing you've ever done. I'm like, no, it's not. It was to prove that it works. It actually ends up being a tool where people are turning the power level down by accident, and they call something and go, mine's broken because it doesn't move. It's not moving. The power level's too low. And they go, oh, and then they didn't read the instructions, but go ahead and turn the power level back up. So that's kind of how it works. It's just a simple way to show that it's working, that it's putting out energy. Most people are not going to feel anything but the results, right? So there's a small percentage that are real energy sensitive that will feel it. And I've learned there's people that are energy sensitive and they're sound sensitive. You can hear it slightly buzz if you put it to your ear, but some people can hear it across the room, 0.2% or something, right? It's very small. Or some people think it's really hot when it's only gets to 105 Fahrenheit. So I've had to prove multiple times you have superhuman touch or sound or something that's not really doing that. So most people are just going to see the results. This, in the simplest sense, it is a music player. It's an MP3 player. It looks like one. They're MP3 files. I already said that. But there's no speaker. It's just a coil. So it's music that your body hears. Your ears are not hearing it. So that's what it is. So most people are not going to feel anything but the results, probably 99% or more. So how do you know it working is we created that little test tube to show the magnet bouncing around. So,
Yeah, and the results talk if you're honest with yourself. I think a lot of people don't have the discipline and life hygiene to track well, to understand. It's kind of like the story you told a little earlier. It's just like you were at a 72 and now you're at a 12. Oh, right? And so taking an honest assessment of where you're at to know where you've gone is not how we're trained. And that's why I do like the gadgets. I know you have a watch that people are loving, because the proof is in the pudding. It's like, wow, look at that. I did sleep better.
it made me think right there is, I can tell you the number one reason it won't work. You didn't use it. Okay. And that's really frustrating because some of the returns we get back are heartbreaking. I bought it for my husband. He wouldn't take it out of the package. He doesn't believe in this voodoo. And you're like, you couldn't get him to try it for 30 days, right? So that part's, because people will ask you, what's your return rate? It's very low. I'll just tell everyone it's 4% or less. And people, when they ask that, they're thinking, it didn't work for 4% of the people. No. A whole bunch of them are, the husband didn't try it, it didn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. I don't like this thing. It's something else. Or unfortunately, we have a decent amount of people go, it did work for me, it worked great, and now I just want my money back. So they send it back. So it's like, it's a very small percentage of people that actually return it because it didn't help them. But you got to use it 3 to 4 times a week minimum for 30 days. If it doesn't work by then, there's either you have the wrong protocol, you misdiagnose yourself, or your doctor did, or it's just not going to work for you. Now, what's weird here is, again, people have been in long-term physical, mental pain. When it works for them, they actually don't care what I recommend. They will use it 20 times a day. I have one friend who's an ex-race car driver. He's had 4 concussions. He's been on fire twice. He owns 15 of these. He looks like a terrorist when he comes out to the bar. He's got them strapped all over. I'm like, dude, you don't need to do that. And he goes, I don't care what you think. I feel good doing it, and I'm going to run. So we've proven you can't overdose with this stuff, except make you tired if you use it way too much for some people. But so that's a cool safety issue, right? I want to bring up one thing about EMFs, just because it's really important for people to understand this, because we get bombarded with this. Are there EMFs? Does it put out EMF? And I'm like, yes. EMF is light, okay? But what they're asking is all the harmful EMFs and all those things, right? It's like, it's super low energy frequency. The EMF level is completely different than your cell phone. So the analogy I finally came up with is on the Vibe. If the Vibe was 1 step, your cell phone would be walking around the earth 10 times at the equator. That's the difference on harmful EMF versus helpful EMF. But we get that all the time with EMF blockers. It's like, I can't use it. And unfortunately, people buy these EMF gauges and they don't know what they're measuring. And half the people that manufacture them don't know what they're measuring, right? And so they go like that and go, and it moves and they go, it's going to kill me. No, EMF is good. Light is good, the right kind of light. So that's just kind of an important point I wanted to make, because it's a huge hurdle that we have trying to educate people on that, because they immediately panic from all the fear mongering around your cell phone's going to kill you.
Yeah. And most of the people who say that have no idea. They have no degree in electrical engineering. They have no degree in any of this stuff. And so there's just, I mean, I know a guy who, was trying to get me to sell these rocks because they block EMF. So I said, send me your studies. And he sent one study that was anecdotal, that meant nothing. And he built this whole business selling rocks.
We get emails all the time. My Amherst crystal, my EMF blockers are going to mess with that. And I'm like, so I wrote the article waiting for a lot of backlash. I said, EMF is light, okay? It's electromagnetic frequency. If EMF blockers worked, the room would be dark, pitch dark, right? And I've contacted all the EMF blocker guys and asked them how your stuff works. They all hang up on me pretty much when I said, why is the room not dark? One guy goes, because we're blocking very specific harmful frequencies and we're letting all the other ones bounce around the room. I go, okay, forget your EMF blocker. You just did DARPA level shit, right? Yeah. That you can selectively block certain frequencies and not other ones, and then they hang up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, and I piss off some of my customers because they have EMF blockers. And I'm like, this is Mark's opinion. Now, your cell phone with a Faraday case around it, yes, that's going to block some stuff. But you can't wear a pendant or put something on your desk and have it block EMF light bouncing around the room.
Totally.
Right.
Now, my wife wears the silver one. One of my best friends, his wife swears by. She has like 3 of the silver ones because she's like a busy realtor, and she swears by it. She wears it all the time. I'm like, what does it do for you? She's like, I have people getting angry about deals all the time, and I suddenly found myself being the calm person on the phone, just mediating, and people come back and they apologize for their behavior. And she's like, I've always been a type A person. I've never been the like peace broker in anything. Right. And it's changed me, and everyone notices that I'm different. And I notice when I'm not wearing it that I'm just edgier. So she swears by it. She wears it all the time. Now, that has a single frequency, but it also has coils going in all directions. So I'd love for people to understand, because like I'm a guy that sits at a desk or is at home most of the time. That's easy because I'm not like bopping around. Right, and I'm not taking that on a run with me. The other one, if you could show it, is multi-directional and can spin around and still deliver the effect.
Yeah, one of the things we put in the patent pending is, what's kind of cool is, on the Vibe, if it flips over, it's about 80% as efficient. You want the coils as close as you can get. On this one, we designed the coils that you get the same 360, which by happens the way it lays on the chain, it doesn't really flip that much anyway. What it's doing is it's going after the vagus nerve. It's in the brainwave beta to theta range, and it's kind of a sweep so it doesn't get stagnant. The human body, if you just go doo the whole time, it can't hear it anymore. So you got to keep changing a little bit. The vagus nerve, I mean, we've been around for billions of years, right? The vagus nerve was not designed for the micro threats that we have every day, the 10,000 of them. So the analogy is you're going down the highway with your foot on the gas, full throttle, and the brake at the same time. This is trying to chill you out and balance that. And that's the main thing it does. It's a funny story because the first study we did with that was 1-hour sessions with a bunch of people. I had a third independent doctor do it. And the heart rate variability went up 58% after an hour. And I go, wow, that sucks. I wanted to like triple it or something. He goes, you're an idiot. An NFL player would pay like $1 million for it to go up 10%. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know that.
It doesn't move that much. Yeah.
It doesn't move that much. I went, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, so that's, it just, that same experience you just described. I don't get that upset anymore when something happens. And it's not like you're drugged or you're like doped out. It's just like, no, I'm being more rational and I'm more joyful. That's not what used to really piss me off and get all worked up about. I just don't anymore.
You have a longer fuse. Is how how I've heard it and how I like to think of it is, I'm less snappy because I don't.
The longer fuse, and there's not dynamite at the end.
No kidding. Right. No kidding. Yeah, with less TNT. We get a lot of executives who are, man, they're just banging so hard, trying to stay well and wearing the glucose monitors and just doing all the stuff. But a lot of this biohacking advice is also aggressive. You're going to go sit in a sauna and then go jump in some ice and then do some burpees. And it's all just so alpha and it's so much more doing, which isn't necessarily the medicine some of these folks need. So what is this doing for the execs that are coming your way?
Yeah, it's in brain fog, those type of things, or just too much going on and can't concentrate the same, like you need to. I mean, one analogy that I use is if you just go look at people in their career, who gets promoted and who doesn't, it's my opinion, the underlying factor is communication. How well do you present? Especially if you're a starting person. It's like you might get to talk to your boss's boss once a year, right, in a presentation. You're going to get promoted based on that snapshot. That's all that you got, right? So it helps a whole lot with anxiety and those type of things prior to presentations like that. It's a substitute for coffee in the morning for a lot of people. Is I don't need the caffeine boost anymore. I'm still thinking clear as soon as I start running the protocol. So it's helped a lot of people with that and balance the burnout, right? Is allow you to take a break. It just calms your vagus nerve down. Back to what you said before, people just aren't getting stressed as much, right? Or they are getting stressed, but the reaction to it is not as extreme, right? And it's brought it down a couple notches so I can. We went sailing, my family, right, on a sailboat last year, and you put everyone for a week inside one boat, things can happen. Everyone ran the device, and we just made a joke out of this. There's always going to be somebody getting in a fight about something. It didn't happen on this trip, right? And we came up with a thing, because my nephew was getting real negative before we got on the boat and going dark, which you can do. So I made him run that protocol, and then we came up with a safe word, okay? Came up with apricot. So if anyone gets too dark on this boat, we're going to say apricot, and we didn't have to use it. It was kind of a weird thing because I had people using the vibe, and it was noticeably different of people in closed quarters and that kind of thing. So not so much an executive, but just managing the stress part. Again, seeing the communication piece of it where you can articulate what you're trying to say more clear, like super helps with your career. And the other one is like brainwave gamma. If you need to be amped up for a certain thing, you can use that. And most people you think are athletes would want gamma before the game, but they're not. Most of them are doing theta and alpha. It's more of a meditation to kind of get in the
Zone.
Michael Jordan zone, right? Is that like he doesn't know how he made that move before he made that move, right? So we've seen a lot of people help with that pre-game. The game may be football or hockey, or it may be going into the boardroom.
One of the things I'm seeing that has become a big emphasis over on the urban monk side of the fence is everyone's freaked out about AI coming and eating their lunch. And for good reason. Like the AI is damn good at a lot of things, right? So it's like, I'm not going to do hard math. I'm just going to ask my phone, right? Yeah. And so I think in the future, what really is going to matter is double downing on the areas that AI cannot compete with you on, which is your personality, your charm, your charisma, your presence, your ability to be more human.
As I say, be a human, right?
To be more human, and we've let all that go, but now AI is running circles around us in the places where we used to be good. And so we really have to kind of come back to double down on our humanity. And that's where I find a lot of leverage with this technology as well, is like, get back in your body, get to the Schumann resonance, start to feel human again. Because when you walk in a room, I'll walk in a room and be like, oh, there's signs of life in one guy out of 30.
Right?
That's the guy I'm promoting. That's the guy I'm hiring. That's the guy I'm talking to at the party. That's the guy I'm giving an opportunity to because he's showing me signs of life.
Right. In the book I wrote, Go Find Joy, it's like one simple thing was don't do anything for the first hour that has anything to do with AI or your computer or your phone when you wake up. Just go sit over there and think about, we have a phrase that's like just screwing off, right? And trying to force yourself to do it. And I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, trying to do that myself. And it's helping me with the vibe, thinking a lot clearer. When people ask, fortunately, I don't have a lot of ailments, I don't think, that my vibe covers. Sleep, though, my entire life, I've had weapon systems, people trying to stab me, shoot me, I'm running, right? When I run sleep, I get Halle Berry. I get a totally different experience, and I actually know it when I forget to run. I don't run it every night, right? I use it 3-4 times a week, but if I haven't used it in a week, I'll wake up in the morning and go, when was the last time I used that? Because that was awful. That nightmare I just went through. So that's my use of it. We get tons and tons of, man, I wish I could make a mosaic of the 300 emails we get a day of how it's helped people, but it's personal, right? A lot of people don't want to share that, especially video. Nobody wants a written testimonial because they think I wrote it, right? The video testimonials, they just don't want their face on the camera, right? So I wish you had more and more of those you could share, and we have a couple hundred on the website, but some of the things like that, sleep, of the people saying, I've never slept like this since I was a teenager, right? It's changed that. I had one lady go, hey, doctors don't know what it is. It's every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, my arm itches so much I have to scratch it and I bleed. It's that aggressive and there's nothing for it and we don't know what it is. And I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know, not a doctor, but try allergy, right? And see if that helps, and general inflammation. And it did. And so we get the coolest stories are just, and we mentioned AFib already. They didn't know how they were measuring it, right? You get people going, it worked for this. We didn't tell them to go do that. I had 2 years ago, 3 doctors, it was weird, in the same week go, this thing is kicking butt for MS. I'm like, I don't have an MS protocol. What are you running, fibromyalgia? And they went, yep. Right, so they're making that connection. Wound healing, right? Just any kind of, people, especially horses, hurt themselves all the time. So just that kind of wound healing really helps. We have one doctor he's a veterinarian in Colorado. I can't say his name because his last name has literally 30 letters in it. I don't know how to pronounce it, okay? But he's using it 30 to 40 times a day for spays and neuters, for wound healing, to speed it up. Some simple ones, we have massage therapists and stuff that are just putting on the back of their neck while they're giving a massage. And the massage is more pleasant. And then it's a cool business thing because they upsell the session for $20, right? Mm-hmm. And one of our coolest stories is, I think, and if it doesn't raise the hair on your arm, you're not human, is a 17-year-old girl goes, Mark, I'll never have a date in my life because I have Tourette's. It's awful. The boys all bully me. They think I'm a monster. It's devastating. And she goes, I ran the brain balancing protocol. My Tourette's disappeared, and I have a date on Saturday night. I didn't tell, and then she married the guy 2 years later, right? And it's like, I didn't tell her to do that, right? So we run into people that, and doctors and other people look at it and go, okay, this isn't exactly a match, but I'll try it. And a lot of times it works. The fundamentals of general inflammation, run general inflammation. That's 80% of most ailments. If it's toxicity, whatever kind, there's infinite amount of them, run the liver protocol. If it's nerve related, run fibromyalgia, right? So, and one that most people would not make the connection. And I go, this can't be true, but I did the research and I went and talked to one of the best glaucoma doctors in the world. And he goes, that's true. Your eye health is tied directly to your liver and your kidney. Mm-hmm. So run liver and kidney protocols. We have a study going on with them, but a doctor that's the most popular doctor in the country for that is a little too busy to actually give me my data, right?
Right. That's the problem.
That's the problem. So we're still waiting for that. But
I can give one personal. So I am the weirdo that actually gets up and spends an hour and a half doing Qigong in the mornings. So I stay analog. I do my practices. Right. I do my breathing and all this stuff. And so I've been in the mind-body space for a very long time. And I know the space very well when you are in your body, versus in your head. And so I can tell that this moves me into a very healthy place very quickly. I try not to rely on it. I still do my practices. I still do stuff, and my students are using it adjunctively. And I know that healing space and that flow state really well. And it's a very familiar place for me and my students. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, that got me there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which says a lot, right? For people who do the practices, you know that space. So listen, we're out of time, and I just want to implore people who are considering this to say, look, it doesn't hurt to try. Nobody is saying it's going to be a slam dunk for anything, but I have so much anecdotal data from patients in our system that are coming back saying, holy crap, this helped me so much. What do you got to lose, right? I'm sure you got a refund policy. Like, it's worth trying. And if it works for you, hallelujah. And if it doesn't, you gave it a try. But like what I think, just going back to something you said earlier, I think it was a Michael Jordan quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right. Yeah, and the guarantee stuff, we have money back guarantee. I don't want anyone in the world to have one and pay for it if it didn't work for you. Mm. Right? When people go, it's a scam, of course it's a scam. Someone explain to me how my scam system works when I'm giving people money back when it doesn't. I mean, I don't want to take anyone's money if it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I will say that we don't say, no questions asked, right? We don't do that. We're going to ask a question because the reason you bought it is you need relief, right? We're going to have a question. We're going to talk to you, make sure you run the right protocol or make some other suggestions. Maybe give you an extended use time, right? We'll give you money back. We won't just do no questions asked because sometimes you didn't read the instructions and you didn't turn it on right, or you had power level 0. So we want to talk to you to make sure, because that's the end goal, right? Is to actually help you, not the sale.
Well, and if we did something wrong, we could improve our device, or we would know why our thing isn't working.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You need a feedback loop. Yep. Mark, thank you for doing the work that you're doing. I know how busy you've gotten with all this, and I appreciate you just going down all these rabbit holes trying to help people. That it says a lot about you as a person. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for that.